welcome to the Unbreakable Soul. I'm your host, Crystal Rome, and I'm here today with Annita D'Amico. She has been a previous guest, and we decided to do a part two. Yes, because there was so much information, and we wanted to dive a little deeper and elaborate on how to reprogram our brains and our minds to have freedom in our lives. So let's get started because it's so exciting. You have so much information. Can I just say one quote from your book real quick, though?
Please.
I love this quote. Is learning is a journey from known to unknown. And it's so true because if we don't know it, it can't help us. So we need to learn new information so that we can change our lives.
And it really is. We are always learning and we're always figuring out what's going on. And the powerful piece is that we can continue to learn.
It's never too late.
It is never too late, and you're never too old, and you're never too tired. And
well, that's why we have coffee. Yeah.
One thing that when you say reprogram the brain, I can hear other professionals, other scientists saying, hold up here. But it is a piece of that we have so much in our brain that is connected. And we have so many parts, so many moving parts. We have so many incredible renewal sources inside of the brain, which we talked a little bit about last time, that the brain will, through learning, through experience, through encountering things, will begin to actually connect in different ways. For example, if we were hardwired for situations, we could have one fearful situation and we would never, ever be able to react any way but fearful. Well, we know that's not true. Some young children who are fearful as little guys, all of a sudden are these bold, bodacious children who are leaders and powerfully instrumental in the other children in their lives and youth and teens. So our brains are not hardwired. They are wired, but they are able to be rewired and refocused and reset, which is just, to me, is so awesome and exciting.
Yes, thankful, right.
Yes.
Thank goodness for that.
Now, when something very traumatic happens, we had talked some about this before, it is able for the brain to become built into a stronghold.
Yes.
And of course, we know what a stronghold means. Any of us who have ever studied history or anything else, it can be a fortress. Which means that there are actually walls that have been built up around that fortress to keep it in place. What that means inside the brain is as the brain has been traumatized or just extremely fearful or a situation, often a trauma situation is fortified when someone has believed that this would never happen to them.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to stop you right there because the part of doing this whole series is hearing people's stories. I know some people know a little bit about mine, but I have been through abuse in my past that I was able to break free and live in freedom today. But there was a situation I was in with an ex, and I was in a car, and he was in such a rage driving, like speeding and almost driving off the road. And he started strangling me as he's driving, and I'm in the passenger side right next to him, and then finally pulled off to the side. But he had his arms around me, and I couldn't breathe, and I was going unconscious. And I was thinking to myself, Jesus, help me. Like, I can't believe this was not meant to be my life.
Yes.
Like, why is this happening? And there was actually another couple in the back seat, and it was friends of ours, and he was jumping on him, trying to get him off of me, and it was just craziness. And I opened the car door and was able to slip out on the ground, and it was wet pavement because it was storming that night, pouring down rain. And I ran into oncoming traffic to get help. That's how desperate I was. Not all the way out in the street, but I was flagging cars down. No one would stop. No one would help me. And I felt so alone. And so like, this is my life. Like, I'm stuck. It was a fortress. That word you used when I read that in your book, The Culturally Wired Brain, you guys have to pick this up because it's an amazing book, but that that quote right there stuck out to me because it was that fortress that I felt like had built up so high that there was no way I could get out unless I was going to be dead. Like there was no way for me to escape the situation. Thank goodness I was able to eventually get away from him and figure out restraining orders and do the whole process, but to get away from him and start a new life. But it was not easy. And so I want you to give some helpful information when you're in that situation. Like, I wish I knew what I know now, because I've grown so much and I've been able to empower myself to know my identity, know what I deserve in my life, and see myself. I'm a completely different woman than I was back then.
I so appreciate you sharing that, because it's easy to talk about issues and the way we're built and everything. But when we look at an experience that someone has had and someone's been trapped in, it brings all those pieces to life. This is not just an assumption or a philosophical piece. Mm-hmm. I want your listeners to understand, when they're looking at their own situations, that Crystal, you did not get in that car, in that situation, in one night.
No.
There were steps that took you to that place. There were steps that allowed this young man to believe that he could do what he did to you, and had no way that anyone would stop him. He had already established that he had the authority to do that to you.
Right.
So there's a process getting there. Your listeners need to know there's a process coming out. That as you begin to step away, as you begin to say, I've had enough.
Right.
I want to be free of this. Well, remember what a fortress is. A fortress is still built inside your mind.
Right.
So you begin to dismantle that fortress. You begin to say, I got here. I'm not even sure how I got here. But I want more.
I want more. That's key. I'm so glad you said that, because that's exactly what went through my mind. I want more for my life. And you have to believe that deep down, God wants more for you. He doesn't want you to live this life of constant trauma and where you don't even know who you are anymore. You lose yourself.
That's right. And we're enabled to have more. Jesus said in one of in the New Testament, he said, come and learn of me. Okay, well, if we had no other verse, that's enough. That means he was saying, in effect, everyone is a learner. And so we are given a brain that can learn and grow and think and change and do all sorts of stuff. We have to step out in truth. That's what faith is, before sometimes we even see it or feel it or believe in any enablement.
Move forward.
And find someone. You need someone to walk with you. Walk with that other person. Find someone to walk with you.
Right. But that's truly important. We're made for community. Yes. We're not made to be alone. And I actually wrote a song about that called Island. But we are not meant to be an island. We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to come together, and together we can get through anything.
That's right. It's interesting. I am fascinated by nature, because there's so many truths that are expressed in nature. If you take a tree and you tie it up so it grows straight, that's awesome. But if you leave those restrictions on that little tree, it never grows strong. Those wires and attachments have to be taken off of it so it can actually be battered some by the wind, which actually then strengthens the tree for the storms.
Right. Right.
So some of the things where we go through and we're like, I hate this, and I don't feel like this is right, and why am I doing this? Yes. If we begin to see it in the light of the positive piece of that we're built for the storms, we're actually built for them. Right. And we become stronger, and then we're more enabled, and we can walk more sure-footedly.
And we can help others.
Yes.
That's key.
Yes.
Yeah, I think empowering and learning all we can. And as we grow, we can help others. And then you don't look at your past like, oh, shame on me.
That's right.
and living saying, oh, I wish I could, or why did I waste all those years? Because it's very easy to do that. But it's like you wouldn't be the person that you are today if you didn't go through that.
That's right.
So
there's so many of the Old Testament. I love the Old Testament, and I'm sad that so many people are not reading it anymore because it's awesome. But if you look at some of the characters in there, I mean, there are tons and tons of them. But as we had mentioned one time, even about Esther, who was an orphan, and she was poor, and put into a position where she became queen. Yeah. She was totally she had not been to finishing school. She had not been anything. Right, exactly. But she was enabled by a strong uncle to walk out where she was positioned at that point. I mean, and that's just one. You look at Joseph, he had to go through being enslaved, and he even had a prison record. I mean, stop thinking that anything will hold you back from what God has positioned you to walk in.
That's right. And you may be thinking, oh, I don't know any of these Bible stories, or whoever is listening today, but it doesn't matter your surroundings, your culture, where you are.
That's right.
Because like you said, you can make your life be what you would want it to be.
Yes. Because there are some things, in all honesty, we cannot change in terms of our circumstances.
Right.
But we can change how we see it and what we believe about it. And that is a powerful piece inside of our heads. And so what does that mean? What does that mean if we can process things differently? How I see people who turn something that looked very tragic into a way that they now see purpose in their life. I had one woman talk about it. She had lost a daughter, and thinking about losing a child, it just can undo me.
Yes.
And she said, I would never change the powerful moments that I had with her and what a treasure she was. And she said, I will not let her death diminish the powerful role that she played in my life.
Oof.
And that was so strong for me, that everything can be put in the light of the bigger picture inside of our heads. Can we do it instantly? Like when there's grief or there's pain?
Right.
No, but we can begin to walk that out. I talked to some individuals who work in hard jobs like hospice. And I talked to them about being careful not to always come home with their bags packed with the weight of the people they've served. And that they also have to unpack that bag. They also have to have times to grieve. They have to also have times to process the things that don't look right. They don't only deal with hospice older individuals. They deal with children who have diseases. And so we talk about when they even in bed in the morning, we will lay in bed, and I do this. It's terrible. Before I even put my feet on the ground, I look at my list and I'm exhausted before I get out of bed. That we start our day with, I have purpose today. I'm alive today. I'm excited today. Because I spoke the last time about our brain being biased for the negative. And that's that survival piece. It's like, okay, I'm going to find out who's out to get me this today or this morning.
Exactly. What's going to go wrong today?
That's right. Flipping that on its head and saying, I don't know what's going to happen today, but this is a brand new day, and I'm excited, and I'm going to walk it out with purpose.
And thank you for this and this and
this.
Yes. A thankful spirit. Yeah.
Yes. And now they're actually doing that in our schools. They're asking children to now do gratitude moments. And they're finding that even children's grades are improving. This is not rocket science. This is that as we're grateful and we downgrade the troubles.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah, it is powerful. Yeah. Well, a lot of times, like, what do you have in your mind? So you thinketh you are, or how does that go?
Yes. So a man thinks. Yes.
Yeah.
And woman.
Yeah. And woman. Yeah. But that is true. So, yeah, we can break those strongholds and those different things that just keep you captive.
It's interesting. We all have a blind side. For example, I was on the road and I didn't know where I was going. You know, we all have been there, and we have this wonderful thing called GPS, which I just don't know how people lived before that.
Oh my gosh, we would MapQuest and write directions down on paper.
Yes. And I had almost missed a turn. I thought I looked very carefully, but ended up making the turn and pulled in front of somebody. And of course, they're blaring their horn and they're calling me things that are not nice.
Aww.
And but they were in my blind side. And I thought about the powerful picture that is when we are moving through life and we keep ignoring something that's interfering with our making decisions, growing, developing, taking that next chance of some people want to go to school and they won't go to school because I wasn't good at school or I wasn't good at this or good at that. So we keep those blind places.
Or their parents
just like
didn't
that
go to school.
Exactly. That's there, but we don't realize it's there. That if we would recognize that this is a part that's holding us back. I know people who won't have a relationship because they don't feel they're good at relationships. And that's a tragedy because we're built for relationships. And is it a learning, growing, sometimes
painful?
Like we're back, on the, back in a sandbox trying to share stuff.
Right.
But so knowing how to grow and so that we can begin to see areas that are holding us back.
Right. I love that. Yeah. It's, in my profession, in my chair, I always hear so many stories and different things from different people, but a lot of it comes down to the same thing. They're always saying, if I was only this, then maybe my life would be different, or I can't do that right now because ... or and it is. Sometimes we get stuck. Sometimes we're just overwhelmed by so many things in our life and we feel like, well, that dream is too far away. It's not obtainable and so much needs to change first before that would happen. And I think it's taking one day at a time.
Yes.
But knowing that, we can do little bits and pieces and we can change. Like if you're unhappy with your life, we can make steps to change that.
Exactly. That's possible. As you were talking, I was thinking about having a vision, a goal, rather than just doing day to day. It's where do I want to go tomorrow? Whatever tomorrow is, where would I like to go? And you pick up a pair of binoculars because it's hard to see in the distance. You pick up a pair of binoculars. All of a sudden, that distant object comes crystal clear. And that's a piece of beginning to say, okay, I believe I can be built for something bigger. I believe I can do other things.
That's right.
If I see it around me, why can't I do it? Sometimes that old saying, to think outside the box, let's stay out of the box. Let's start believing that this day can be an incredible challenge and exciting. And Nelson Mandela, who became the leader of South Africa. I was reading something about him recently, and I loved it because he said that when he walked out of prison, and he was there for quite a few years, and it was not a pleasant prison, although he was a political prisoner. He said when the doors clanked behind him, he said, if I don't leave my bitterness and hatred behind those doors, I will forever stay captive for the rest of my life.
Wow.
That's a powerful piece that he knew if he carried that captivity in his head, that he would stay captive. Instead, he came and he became a leader of a country that was still very much struggling through apartheid and believed he could make a difference.
I love that.
And I would want to say that to every woman who's in a situation or man who's a very, very difficult situation. And say, it is time. It's time to move the bitterness, the anger, the hatred, all those pieces. Forgive yourself first.
That's
for allowing yourself to be held captive.
Yes.
And open your own prison doors and walk it out and believe you can impact and influence in ways you never dreamed.
I love it. That is so good. Thank you so much, Annita, for being here today and just sharing from your heart again, and just really bringing to light all this darkness. We're bringing it to the light.
Amen.
And making changes. And then
Yes.
Hopefully the listeners out there can grab little bits and pieces from what we shared today. And I'd like to have you on again another time too, to talk about some other issues, because you are so knowledgeable in so many areas. But just thank you so much for being you. And you are a life changer. And I just thank you for that.
Well, I love it. And you are as well. Thank you.
You.